movie theater watching a dull film just because you'd paid for the ticket? That's the sunk cost fallacy in action. And how about the anchoring bias? This one tricks us into heavily relying on the first piece of information we receive, the so-called anchor. If a store advertises a shirt as reduced from $100 to $50, you're likely to consider it a bargain, even if the shirt isn't worth $50 in the first place. So, cognitive biases can often lead us astray. But is there another psychological phenomenon at play here? Welcome to the world of heuristics, our brain's favorite mental shortcuts. In our daily lives, we face countless decisions, and our brain has developed a handy way to deal with all this information: heuristics. These are mental shortcuts that help us make decisions swiftly, based on past experiences and patterns. They're like the brain's personal navigation system, guiding us through the maze of decision-making. Let's take a closer look at a couple of these mental shortcuts. First up is the representativeness heuristic. This nifty little tool helps us make decisions by comparing the current situation to our mental prototypes. For instance, if you see a person wearing a white coat in a hospital, your brain will likely categorize them as a doctor, even though they could be a nurse, a lab technician, or even just a very fashion-forward patient. Next on the list is the anchoring heuristic. This one's a bit tricky. It's all about how we tend to latch onto the first piece of information we receive, using it as an anchor for our subsequent decisions. Let's say you're buying a used car, and the seller mentions the price they originally paid for it. That number becomes an anchor, influencing how much you're willing to pay, even if the car's actual value is much lower. However, as handy as these shortcuts are, they're not without their pitfalls. They can lead us to make hasty and sometimes inaccurate decisions. For instance, the representativeness heuristic might lead us to make stereotypes, while the anchoring heuristic can make us susceptible to manipulation. But don't worry, our brain is adaptable. By being aware of these heuristics and their potential downsides, we can train ourselves to make better, more informed decisions. Heuristics and biases together paint a pretty complex picture of our decision-making process. But how does our brain process all this information? Imagine our brain as a decision factory, tirelessly processing information to help us make choices. In this factory, two systems are hard at work. Picture System 1 as a quick and nimble worker, leaping into action the moment a decision needs to be made. It's intuitive, instinctive, and doesn't waste time overthinking. It's the one that makes you swerve to avoid a collision without a second thought, or helps you select your favorite ice cream flavor in a split second. It's fast, but it's not always accurate. Then there's System 2, the thoughtful, analytical worker. This one likes to take its time, weighing up all the options, considering every angle. It's the system you engage when you're solving a complex math problem or deciding which house to buy. It's slower, but it's more reliable. These two systems don't operate in isolation. They're constantly interacting, influencing each other. When you're making a decision, both systems are at work, but one may be more dominant than the other. Think of it like a seesaw. On one end is System 1, with its speed and intuition. On the other end is System 2, with its slow and methodical approach. The weight shifts back and forth as you make a decision, depending on the complexity of the decision and the context. For simple, everyday decisions, System 1 usually has the upper hand. But for more complex decisions, System 2 takes over, carefully analyzing the situation. However, it's important to note that neither system is inherently better than the other. They each have their strengths and weaknesses. System 1 can be prone to biases and errors due to its speed, while System 2 can be bogged down by over-analysis. By understanding how these two systems work, we can become more aware of our decision-making processes. We can learn to recognize when we're relying too much on one system and not enough on the other. So our brains are quite the decision-making machines, but can we improve this process? Now that we understand the psychology behind decision-making, can we use this knowledge to make better decisions? The answer is a resounding yes. Let's dive into some practical tips to improve our decision-making process. First, let's talk about biases. We all have them, whether we're aware of them or not. They're like invisible strings pulling us towards certain decisions. But awareness is the first step towards breaking free from these strings. So make a conscious effort to recognize your biases. Are you leaning towards a particular option because it's familiar, or dismissing another because it's outside your comfort zone? Challenge these tendencies. Question your initial reactions. This can help you make more balanced and thoughtful decisions. Next, take your time with big decisions. Our brains love shortcuts, as we've learned, but not every decision should be made in a snap. For those choices that carry significant weight, slow down. Give your brain the time it needs to process all the information. Sleep on it if you have to. A fresh mind can often bring new insights. Then seek diverse perspectives. No man is an island, as they say. Our decisions shouldn't be isolated either. Different perspectives can help us see things we might have missed, challenge our biases, and offer fresh ideas. So don't hesitate to seek advice or opinions from others. But remember, ultimately, the decision is yours. Use these perspectives to inform your decision, not dictate it. Lastly, embrace mistakes. They're not failures, but learning opportunities. Each misstep brings you one step closer to making better decisions. So, don't be too hard on yourself when things don't go as planned. Reflect on what went wrong, learn from it, and move forward. With these tools in hand, you're ready to tackle your future decisions with a newfound understanding. So